I'm here at the Australia-USA Water Series Forum and Industry Mission organized by the Australian Trade Commission in Los Angeles on behalf of the Good Day USA Australia Week Committee. My guest is Christopher Rochfort. He is Chief Executive Officer with Star Water Solutions. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
You have just finished presenting your solution to stormwater, industrial, and agricultural wastewater treatment and reuse. In other words, there are a lot of times we don't need to be using nice, pure water. Well, actually, it would be pure if it's treated correctly, but we can use reuse water. How common is that? Can we be doing more of it?
Yes, certainly. It's a matter of the technology catching up with being able to treat it efficiently and making it available for reuse efficiently without impacting the environment more by adding chemicals or using a lot of energy to do that. And our technologies are very efficient and very energy efficient, as well as providing the water available for reuse. And we also make our systems out of recycled materials, which is very good for communities around the world. Our systems are made locally with local communities using local people, and we're benefiting those communities in being able to provide water back for reuse rather than using potable water reserves for applications that you may not need to use them for.
Irrigation, of course, is one that doesn't necessarily need the purest of water.
No, that's correct. Certainly plants are amazing things. They can actually absorb and efficiently absorb some of the things that are in stormwater that are a problem in stormwater are actually a benefit for plants and for agriculture. Nutrients, for instance, we need nutrients to provide them back for crops and for plants in people's gardens even. And often those nutrients in a water source are a bad thing, but in reusing them for agricultural and for domestic application, these nutrients that are in the stormwater system can be put back beneficially.
And of course, when we're flushing the toilet, we really don't need to have pure water there either.
No, certainly. It's certainly a waste of a water supply. And then not only is it a waste of a water supply there, but then we've got to use a whole lot of energy and other resources to clean that water up to protect the surrounding environment.
Let's talk about that cleanup, because in the United States, most water, when it goes into the sewer system, has to be cleaned up before the outfall goes into a water system like a lake or a river or the ocean. In other words, we have primary, secondary, and tertiary treatment, which cleans it up to different levels. When can we reuse that water after it's treated?
Well, obviously there's the public safety and public health issues there that have got to be addressed, and technologies like Star Water technology can take it to a certain level, and then you can have other technologies, UV technologies and ultraviolet technologies, that is, and ozone technologies that can do the final treatment to take out the pathogens and diseases that may be in very minor levels still in there, if you like, after some treatment.
So describe the technology that you're providing now that is an improvement over what has been in some of these very ancient systems.
Yeah, right. Well, our system targets stormwater primarily, because in stormwater you don't have the same sort of problems that you do in wastewater treatment from sewage wastewater treatment plants, for instance. But our technology is a natural filter system. Our materials are natural materials. We don't add any chemicals at all to it. When we put our filter systems into applications, we don't need to plug those systems into an energy source. We use gravity and infiltration to do the treatment, along with the combination of processes that are going on within our filter system, which are physical, chemical and biological treatment.
Where in Australia is your system currently being utilized, and is it applicable in other countries like the United States?
Certainly. Our systems have been in place along beaches in Australia. We love to swim as Californians, so I do as well. So we have a situation where if it rains, our beaches are closed, and that's not good for our lifestyle, or also not good for our economy if we've got tourism and so on. So we work very hard at using our systems to protect our beaches from road runoff and runoff from other industry and so on. So we've used our systems along beaches. We've used them for industrial applications in treating industrial waters. We also have systems along highways and that. Even in North America, we're working in Canada at the moment, putting these systems in along freeways to filter the road runoff that's coming off the freeways into sensitive water bodies and so on. So our systems are used in North America already, but in more from a water protection point of view. But in California, our interest here is using them to clean up the water, but also to make the water available for reuse.
It sounds as though your system can be applied to current infrastructure as well as being designed into new buildings or roadways.
Definitely. Our system is retrofitted a lot into where a curb system with a gutter and a drain that's been broken away over the years. Many of our systems are degraded. They're 100 years old, some of our gutter systems. Where they need replacing, our system can go directly under the gutter and under the drain, so you can replace the drainage system at the same time as providing protection for the water bodies by taking out the pollutants, but also having a drainage system underneath that can capture that water and then make the water available for reuse once it's cleaned up.
Obviously, there are tremendous ecological, environmental advantages to creating cleaner wastewater, reusing the water that we have, particularly in communities and countries where there's serious drought. Is it economical?
Yes, that's the big question. Often the dollars and cents comes down to that. Where you're renewing infrastructure anyway, it is a very cost-negative situation. Where you need to put it in from a regulatory point of view and that, it's a cost on top of that. But however, for years we've been subsidising, the environment's been subsidising the cost of doing the right thing by not taking the pollutants out. So if we can put a cost on what that pollutant is going into the waterways, then you'll find that it's a very cost-benefit situation. However, if we put on top of that the availability of water to go back into the community, often at a lower cost and lower price to the community than what potable water is, then the economic propositions turn right around to be in favour of these sort of systems.
Do we have to create an infrastructure so that once we get the wastewater cleaned up so that it is usable again, that it can go back into systems that are used? Do we need a separate piping?
No, we don't, because we're actually using the drainage systems along roads to, one, treat the pollutants that are in the stormwater, but also those systems convey the water back to tanking systems, underground tanking systems, right along people's frontage of their property. So you could actually draw water out along the roadside, under the ground, of course, whereas normally you have to pipe the water to a treatment facility and then pipe it back to the households again. Our system allows for you to be able to access the water right out the front of your property for using in gardens, washing your cars, a lot of the applications there where you're not using drinking water quality.
How big is the system? I'm not an engineer. What's it look like? How does it operate? Obviously, in an abbreviated form, if you can explain it.
Yeah, well, if you can imagine along every gutter along roadways, these systems go underneath the ground, not by very far, by a yard or so down and half a yard across, but they go right along the frontage of properties and right along highways and freeways. So while they are a small footprint along each property front, they are very inobtrusive because they're underground, but they're elongated because they can go for kilometre after kilometre, mile after mile. We have systems that are 650 yards long across our beach frontages in Australia, for instance.
You're advocating these kinds of solutions as opposed to just treating it at an end source?
Yes, certainly, because of the ability, pollution is widespread and dispersed. We need to be able to trap that pollution wherever it falls before it travels and accumulates, because the more it accumulates, the harder it is to treat. So our systems are underground in passive areas where the pollution loadings are low before they accumulate. The other benefit is that if we can do it at the source and upstream from that, then it gives the ability to be able to not use a whole lot of energy in that to pump the water back to where it's needed.
It's really wonderful to hear that we can clean up the stormwater, have industrial and agricultural wastewater treatment, and reuse it. Have you ever taken a glass of water and drunk it?
Yeah, certainly. In fact, not only our water, I live on a rural property myself, and my colleague in Star Water also does. He has a system in place. He drinks the water all the time. However, I've also drunk the water from Orange County's reuse system as well. So I'm a great believer that with the right treatment and the right technologies in place, you can make water available for reuse quite safely.
So you've had some of our California water as well as your Australian water, and we certainly are glad that we're getting clean water, and thank you very much for making those opportunities available, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Nancy.